they're individuals in the ways, again, like one tree might not want to work with you at all. And here's how I tell people you'll know if a tree wants to work with you, because people are like, okay, so I go to the woods and I ask a tree if it wants to work with me. Well, how the hell do I know if it says yes or no? And this is where they're training us to tune in to our own energetic fields. Now, one of the other beautiful pieces about tree energy is trees are slow. I mean, their growth, when you look at the rings, they're slow. Even in a good year, the ring's not that big, but it's a slow and steady. So they teach us to slow down. Come and sit underneath my branches and slow down, you crazy fast-forward human. And we start to slow down. And again, each tree individually has their own wisdom, different things they want to share with you. And sometimes you can get the clues based on the kind of tree it is, what's the species of the tree. But again, and trees of the same species will share similar messages, but then you'll get specific pieces from a particular tree. And what I do in my work a lot is I will connect with the trees. In fact, I did it today before the call, and I was out talking to the trees, and I said, you know what, trees, I need you guys to connect with trees who know humans, who can listen to this show, who it's going to make sense for them, and you guys are going to be able to then connect with them. Because I am under no misnomer. I am in service to learning from all of nature, and I feel like the trees, the rocks, the animals, the landscapes, those are my bosses. That's who I answer to. And so I want to do them proud. I want to make sure that I get the interpretation of what they're sharing the best that I can, getting myself out of the way, because I definitely have my own human, perspectives and my own human opinions. But man, they're like the wise elder of the family. Like it doesn't always make sense, and sometimes it seems like they're speaking in riddle, but they are so spot on when we can slow down and tap into it.
Now, are they scared of humans too, from a standpoint? I mean, you have the lumberjacks going out and start chopping all the trees down and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure then they can communicate with all the other trees in their network that there's danger and all that stuff. I mean, wouldn't they have a lot of hostility towards humans for that?
It's interesting. Again, back to the dropping sap or things like that, or equipment breaking down. It's, again, everything's connected. It's not just the trees. There are nature spirits, the elemental realm, that is in charge of working with the trees and all of this. And then, of course, the animals. And you can go further down the rabbit hole to all of the unseen things. And here's the thing, when people start thinking this is kind of wacky, 96% of all matter is unseen. It's dark matter. What we're seeing, we're so skewed in this third dimensional reality. We think everything is, if you see it, you can believe it. And as your listeners know, that is only the beginning of the story. The really good story gets once you get past the unseen stuff. And so they have a different perspective than us. They have a higher perspective. Like we see what's going on in the political climate, and we are like, something has to be done today, right now, because this is unacceptable. And they see the bigger thing, like, yes, this is happening, and yes, it's everything that you're saying it is, and it's happening for a bigger purpose, to unfold or bring awareness to something else that's going to bring a big shift. So this upheaval right now, this piece that seems like destruction, is needed. So they have more patience, really, than we do. And again, we don't always deserve that with them, because we've proven time and time again that we are very, very short-sighted. We will kill our entire environment and then wonder why we're sick and dying.
Yeah, well, you couldn't say that any better than you did. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're poisoning our environment so fast. I mean, it scares me for my grandkids. I know I'll probably survive it. I know that my own children, they're all in their 25s to 40. They'll probably survive it, but I'm worried about their kids, my grandkids, if they're going to be able to survive in a society with the way it's going, with the temperatures, or maybe a pole shift or a magnetic shift. Now, have you asked them any of those type of questions? Do they feel, because I know the magnetic field of the Earth is changing drastically. It's moving fast. The Earth supposedly has developed a slight wobble. I mean, have you asked any of these questions to them?
I have, because you and I subscribe to the same the same places where we're getting, some of this information. And, it's interesting. They've told me on one hand, these cycles have happened for eons, without, us here kind of getting in the way. But we're definitely speeding things up. And again, it's this, what's the word I'm looking for? Unconditional love, this understanding. They understand us better than we do. And, our humanness, I want to get mad at everything and, be like, this is so unfair and look what we're doing. And, our grandchildren, my goodness. And so what they've told me when I get in those places is, you got to share this. You got to share this. And with our kids, my partner has a grandchild, several grandchildren, and our conversations are always about how are we going to keep them connected to nature, because kids get it. When we think they're making things up and they're in their imagination, they are getting it more than we understand. And so all of us, in addition to the things that we do every day that make an impact on the world, we can help the kids, the children, stay connected. And that is a huge task in this day and age when nature has to compete with the digital world. So if we can get them unplugged for a little bit, get them out with the animals, get them out with the trees, let them know that they can talk to the trees and really encourage that, we're going to bring up a whole new generation.
Yeah, if we have trees much longer, I mean, that's
right.
That's what kind of, I was out on my bike here the other day and went for where I normally go for a ride, and there was like mass amount of, they went through and chopped the pine and the cedar trees. All there was stumps. And last year, I mean, it was like miles of these trees, and now it was just nothing but stumps.
Well, we have the same thing going on in the Rockies from Canada all the way down. We've had, because we're not getting as cold as we used to, which is so funny because people think, global warming, all of those pieces, there's so many different takes, and there are different takes in terms of what the outcome is. But what we're experiencing now is here in the Rocky Mountains, we're not getting cold enough to kill off the pests. And so we have areas in the mountains here that have 50 to 90% death in just standing dead trees, waiting, to be a forest fire. And so we have to shift what we're doing and how we're being with it. My partner always says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. And then we can be strategic about where we're planting the trees. There's certain places on the planet, in the rainforest areas, that the trees do even more on a global scale than just locally. And so I know for my own work, I'm always donating proceeds from my work to different organizations. One of them is treesisters.org, and they work on planting trees in these important belts on the planet that help the whole planet. So there's a lot we can do, and there's a lot for us to learn, and the earth is so resilient, which is something we could learn from her. And she just needs a little help. Like if we could just give her a break.
Well, we need to do something. Otherwise, we're not going to, how can I say it? You're going to find mankind maybe being the endangered species, in the next 50 years.
Absolutely. And again, it's so funny because the earth will shake us off like bad fleas, and she's going to keep going on. So I'm so astounded by the trees' interest in us, first of all, and then their willingness. Like, in my humanness, I would have written us off already, But they are not like that. They are like, we understand this is a bigger, global, cosmic experiment we're doing here, and it's so loving. Now, I have had trees that have told me, no, I don't want to work with you. And I think I was going to say that earlier, and I didn't say it. People go up to a tree, and they're like, I'd like to work with you. Would you want to work with me? And some people will hear a yes or a no, but most people won't. So what you have to do then, there's two things you can do. You can either just feel, like, does this feel heavy, or does it feel light? The other thing you can do is ask the question and, put your legs hip width apart and see if you lean forward, it's a yes. If you start to lean backwards, it's a no. And don't take it personally. It just means that there's a different tree that's better suited to work with you. I've done retreats with people who are like, I had to go through 10 trees before I found one.
Well, it's better than 100 or two.
Well, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Well, how about the people, going back around the 1800s, early 1900s, they'd go out because they didn't have TV, they didn't have radio. So they'd take a book, sit down by their oak tree, by their farmhouse or whatever and sit and read. I mean, I'm just wondering if the tree even, could get the vibration from them being relaxed and reading and understand what the person is even reading or, or whatever.
Well, it's interesting because like a lot of things, if you talk to the officials, so you talk to the biologists, you talk to the Forest Service folks, and they will say that a tree's processes are so slow that a human wouldn't even make a blip on the radar. And, I have a science background. I have a degree in biology. and so that was tough for me to take at first. So I went to the trees and I was like, well, this is what they're saying. And they're like, well, yeah, of course, you've got your left brain that's got certain things to say about things. And then, there's basically three sides to everything, his side, her side, and the truth. So there's something going on in between there. And so the tree, one visit to a tree probably isn't really going to impact the tree, but when you come back over and over and you're showing up again, a favorite tree in a forest grove or on your property or in a park, you will build that relationship. It's just like, we show up at a coffee shop and we say hi to someone once and, it doesn't go anywhere. But then you see them over time and you're like, oh, yeah, that's that guy I always see when I get my coffee. And we say hi. And eventually you have a relationship. Before you know it, they're at your house for Thanksgiving. That's how it is with the trees as well. So we have to treat it like we would with any relationship and build it so that we can count on them and they can count on us.
Now, that one tree you were mentioning, before you moved, the pine tree?
Yeah, Ruby.
Ruby, did the tree get attached to you as much as you got attached to the tree?
I always felt her love so much. And the day that I left, it was harder for me to say goodbye to the trees than it was to the people. And it's not because I'm heartless, but I know I've got FaceTime and I've got, telephones and email and I can fly back and all of those. They seriously do. They will have a fondness and build that same relationship. And yet they have this higher perspective and this understanding because I talked about, well, what about trees from our childhood who we can't go see or they've been cut down and all of this? How do we connect? And what they have told me time and time again is they're here to help us remember the energy and the power of our energetic field. We weren't just dropped here as these skin sacks. Like, we have so much connection that we dismiss and we actually give our power away every single day, buying into all the nonsense going on this planet.
Okay. Hey, we're going to need to take about a 1 minute break, so I'm going to put you on hold. We'll be back in actually 1 minute and 30 seconds. If that's okay.
That sounds perfect.
Okay.